Good morning, good morning. Sorry I was a minute late, but if you knew what I was doing, you would feel loved that I made it here at all. That being said, second, let me compose myself. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. Any major change you make to your diet or any other aspect of your lifestyle is something you check with a doctor with for enacting in your own life. Furthermore, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for investment. I'm also a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is an admission of guilt. Lastly but not leastly, all opinions are my own and are in no way affiliated with YouTube or any other platform you may be viewing this on in the future. That being said, welcome to my first three people here. Chirag, Arnav, Anna, how are you doing? Happy Sunday. Oh, it's been an emotional 24 hours, I gotta tell you. Not even 24 hours, but I gotta say that I'm getting cold feet on this streaming thing, if I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not 100% sure if I want to continue down this road, but I'm definitely open to hearing some arguments of why I should or should not, because I value all your opinions. I appreciate you very much. Today is a subscriber-only chat feed. It was meant to be a members-only chat, but it turns out that membership is not available in all countries, and so in the interest of fairness and non-discrimination, I opted out of the membership thing. I also canceled the participant membership, so if you did process $1 payment this month, it will be refunded. But you know, I was kind of thinking of possibly just moving this over to X. You know, I don't know how much you guys think that the video portion of this is valuable, or if you would still be interested in continuing these talks on an audio only basis. You know, the thing with live streaming video is that it requires a strong internet connection. I'll be traveling soon, so it might be easier to keep up in that regard. I've also been considering that possibly, since there is such a small group of people who actually find value in these streams, and such a large group of people who seem to be offended by them, I was considering possibly doing something, you know, maybe Zoom, maybe just one-on-one Skype, FaceTime kind of things, and trying to take a more personal approach with the people who are trying to take it serious, because let's just face it, you know, there's plenty of options for people that want easy spiritual advice. You know, plenty of content creators trying to monetize something sacred. And what I have to share, what I have to say, is not for everybody. It's not something that most people could even do if they wanted to without deconstructing their entire life. Yeah, I'm honestly I feel like I'm at a crossroads. I don't really know where to go from here. I'm gonna do a couple more greetings. Looks like we got a few more people here. Welcome, Antonios. Welcome, Brave. Welcome, Noi. It's good to see you all. David Rodriguez. Thank you for coming. Let me go ahead and see what the chat's doing here. Armlev says, hello, Bruce. So now you do live on Twitter. What about video? What's the issue on YouTube? Well, the main issue on YouTube is that it seems like people from India cannot process payments on YouTube, or they can't get the membership. And it's only $1. It's not really about the money. It's more about, you know, it's more about the filtering out the negative people, and also just showing that somebody is willing to click a couple buttons and part with at least something in exchange for my time. But, more so, it's also, I don't really like having to worry so much about what I say and about whether or not the platform is just going to one day shut me down because I don't align with their political aspirations or whatever, which seems to be an ongoing issue on all these major social media platforms. But yes, I think maybe a more personal approach for the people that really want to take it serious is more of maybe a more realistic way for, to go about this, especially since it really requires me to get to know each person individually to actually give them proper advice, because there is no one size fits all way of going about the things that I'm talking about. Trying to follow my path as I did it, as I walked it, is not only impossible for most people, but it would surely lead to probably some pretty negative consequences, But Jarek says, because impersonal people who are really into this can discuss better, or you can have a group also. Yeah, I was thinking also that would be also good, like maybe like just a small group, which is what I really wanted with the membership option here, because, only someone taking it seriously is going to go through the process of processing even a $1 payment, just because it takes time and some type of effort, And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know where to go from here. It's discouraging, to be honest. I'm also planning on traveling to some pretty remote areas soon, and I was just thinking that with the Twitter thing, maybe it would be less difficult to keep something up with just the audio, because in the past I've had trouble keeping up on these streams just because of connection issues. David Rodriguez says, hello, Bruce. My name is David, and I am the young man who is currently serving in the Navy, was communicating about becoming a U.S. Navy SEAL last year. How have you been? I've been good. I've been very good, actually. CNX, hello. Arnav says, Zoom would be a great alternative now because video is really something which really helps. Well, I mean, the thing is, does it really help that much to see you know, I mean, what does the visual really have to do with anything? I mean, is it not the words that matter? Is it not the communication? I mean, if I'm going to continue on video, then I feel like the rightest way, the truest way to my own beliefs is to do it without words at all, and to just forego the audio and just, you know, or if we're going to do audio, maybe we just chant together or something like that, because I find that, you know, there's really nothing that can be said to people who aren't willing to go through the sacrifices and the other things, that the purification, so on and so forth, that leads to an actual experience with God, right? And chanting is the thing that I find the most potent for bringing on that experience. So, there's a lot to think about. I'm going to consider doing a stream again next Sunday, and not going to rush to a conclusion, because all these doubts, realizations kind of started yesterday, fairly late in the evening. And I will be in full transparency. Last night when I was falling asleep, I was convinced that I would not only quit streaming, but retract myself entirely from the internet. But I've not come to a concrete... Okay, I'm going to move out of the sun. I can't see. I haven't come to a final conclusion on that yet. Though I will say, just simply turning on the subscriber-only chat does seem to dramatically thing. Oh, the $10 membership. I know. I see. I deleted the $1 membership because somebody had processed the payment and it wouldn't go through, and then I realized that we couldn't. It wasn't fair if I was going to do members only chats, and so and some people wouldn't be allowed to chat, who I find very valuable parts of the community that we're building here. And so I just figured that I would remove that all in all. Now, the $10 option is going to be to watch the recordings. I'm going to put all the recordings of these streams behind the $10 paywall, but if I do decide to continue, it will be free for subscribers to come and participate in the live chat. But watching the videos and whatnot, the recordings of it, I think I want to take a more thoughtful approach to what I put out on the internet. And because I am even now still growing and still learning a lot myself, and that I have a very different perspective today than I did a year ago, and even different again than 2 years ago, and definitely very, very different than 3 years ago, that I think it's a more conscious way of going about it, to not just have all that information out on the internet for anyone who's got who just stumbles across my page. You know what I mean? I was planning on traveling to India, but I'm again running into more and more issues with that, between the dog and, you know, I am still surviving off of my adult content and income and stuff, and because the laws over there are really strongly against all that. It's creating a problem for the time being until I can figure out some type of income to replace what I make from the adult stuff. There's really no way for me to go there and have enough to survive, even though I suppose the cost of living would be quite a bit less. I had considered going to Sri Lanka because at least my dog is legal in Sri Lanka. But after doing more research, I find that since the adult content is really heavily illegal and there's some pretty serious consequences for possessing that there, it would again be relatively difficult for me to survive without some type of alternative income. So I'm brainstorming, you guys. I'm open to all kinds of options or whatever, but I'm open to hearing ideas. I'm not going to rush a decision, but all in all, to be completely honest, I feel that I'm hurting my own spiritual process by being so hypocritical as to be doing this on the internet, when there is a very, very real reason why spiritual teachings have historically been a word of mouth thing. And even today, you can see in many religions that which has been written has been corrupted and is used for evil purposes in many cases. And that the truest teachings and the best teachings are the ones that were given through a lineage, from teacher to student and so on and so forth. And I don't think, to be honest, the bulk of my fan base here is American, and I find a lot of, especially even more so than anywhere else, I find people's religious and spiritual viewpoints in the United States tend to be mostly very offensive to my own personal viewpoints. And I'm realizing that while I'm unlikely to be able to help anyone who thinks that they can be forgiven for something because of a man that died 2,000 years ago, that as a opposite of that, interacting with them dramatically lowers my own vibration and my own spiritual progress. And I also find that I grow the most and I learn the most when I'm practicing silence and meditation and chanting. And I don't even really honestly know if I'm qualified to be teaching anyone anything, because all this just happened a couple years ago. And while, learning is not a linear phenomenon, especially in the spiritual space, because connection with the divine gives you quite a lot of information in a very rapid way that is hard to understand if you've never had something like that happen to you. I do feel that perhaps there is much more for me to find out myself before I decide whether or not I should be talking to other people. Because what I observe in religion is like a lot of situations where people woke up and gained a connection and then immediately ran to the mountaintop to scream what they came to know, which is very similar to what I've done, only to have whatever they brought to people from that mountaintop corrupted and used for evil and oppression, manipulation, slavery, so on and so forth. And it was quite effective doing that, even historically, using books. But now with the internet and their ability to pick and choose who sees what, when they see it, what part of it that they see, so on and so forth, the potential for manipulation, alteration, and so on and so forth, especially with the deep fake technology and all that stuff. Thank you, beautiful. It doesn't make any sense for me to, as I see it right now, to feed that beast. I feel that I'm in some way doing something fairly sinful by giving this information to people whom I've never laid my own eyes on. Furthermore, I think that energetically you can transfer greater knowledge to somebody simply by being in their presence than you could do in 1,000 hours of speaking to somebody, especially remotely. Because there's something about the energy and the aura which transfers and raises the vibration as well. And so this is just really honestly an inefficient way of going about it. And in reality, I feel that I was making more process and awakening people when I wasn't streaming for the last few months or whatever, simply by transmitting to random people that I come across in public or in my personal life. And so, while again, I have not come to a final static conclusion about what I'm going to do, and I am open to suggestions and ideas and thoughts from all you fine people. Right now I am leaning heavily towards going back into silence and seclusion and refining my own practice, finding my own mastery, and all in all practicing what I preach, because I have already given all the information. It's already been done in these streams, everything which I have to give at this moment. There's nothing new that I can give anybody who I don't know personally. It would require me to know somebody's life in an intimate manner to be able to personally prescribe to them the best course of action, which I think, knowing what I know, would bring them into a direct experience with God, because that's what it's all about. There's nothing you can learn from a book. There's nothing you can learn from words which can hold even a candle to the light of God if you can actually bring that into yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm going to be introspecting for the next week until next Sunday, and I will also be responding to DMs and direct messages and so on and so forth. And I would love to hear what you all have to say and what you have to think. But all in all, I don't truly, in reality, see myself continuing this in the same way that I am now. Most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the streams behind the $10 paywall, which is, and I might even end up making it higher than that, depending on what I come up with in the next week. And then I will cut out little pieces which I think are valuable for all people, no matter if they're pursuing spirituality or not, and I will release those as shorts and videos and things for free, drawing from the vast archive of streams which we have built up over the course of the last 2 years. And perhaps in the future I will hold some type of in-person gatherings and whatnot. Or maybe even become open to direct consultation with people via Zoom, or a small group via Zoom, or some other video conferencing platform. But as far as social media goes, where anyone just whatever, and they got algorithms and all that bullshit, I have a nasty, nasty taste in my mouth when I think about that. And I think that it's non-virtuous of me to continue this. So I'm going to go to the chat real quick. That was like a long chat. Antonio says, the stream broadcast represents a form of brainstorming through which we rise intellectually and discover horizons by sharing ideas from multiple cultures. In your opinion, what is the best way to move towards a global culture which brings together different ideas in one framework, far from promoting hatred and discrimination? Well, I've been working on that. That was actually the conversation which led to this realization. I was having a conversation with two people that are very close to me within this spiritual community. And I was discussing the idea of doing a daily broadcast where I would draw something from a different religion each day. And rather than going directly against religion, because I am against religion in total transparency, I am completely and totally against religion. But rather than attacking everything that I see wrong with all these religions, I was thinking of on each day drawing something which I see right from each religion, in an attempt to show everybody that ultimately it's all the same source from which all of this has sprung. Every religion has sprung from the same source, but it's all outdated and manipulated. And it's been used for evil purposes for centuries, each and every one of them. And not entirely, not to say that there's no good or no good ever comes of it, but it's just so far out of our current reality. And it's had so much time for people who want money and care about power and so on and so forth, manipulation and control and subjugation, to manipulate these things, that the purity of them is lost. You know what I'm saying? And so there was my idea to do that, but I realize that what that's going to achieve, probably faster than creating a global culture or a global understanding of what spirituality actually is, and what that source is, which it all came from, is that it's most likely just going to create another martyr out of me. And as we can see very strongly in, for example, Christianity, becoming a martyr doesn't make the message more true or more whatever. Somebody will just change it later on and say, oh, you know what? He died for your sins. You can be forgiven as long as you give yourself to this person that no longer exists. Do you know what I'm saying? It's fucking horrible. And I just don't see how I can compete with something that already has so much precedence to do so much harm, where over 1 billion people can be completely and totally lost based upon a teaching that was so pure and so good and was about love. You know what I'm saying? And then now it's just a scapegoat, right? And I don't want to be another scapegoat 1,000 years in the future. You know, I don't want to be a martyr. I want people to awaken and have a personal relationship with God. And I just don't see a way of doing that through social media. it just seems unrealistic. Not only does it seem unrealistic, it seems naive and non-virtuous. I just can't see it. So I'm not really sure. Arnev says daily meditation group or something, chanting and meditation. That's a great idea. I would be actually really open to something like that. You know, because that is a path to having your own realizations. That's a path to learning things which can't be put into words. And you know. Anyways, I'm going to go back to the chat. David says, Navy SEAL thing did not ultimately work out, so I'm now stationed with the Navy in the Arabic country of Bahrain. I've been to the Middle East. I have not. I'm sorry it didn't work out, but it's probably for the better. You're probably a lot less likely to do anything which will permanently damage your soul while being stationed on a boat than if you were a Navy SEAL. So, I don't know what your feelings are on it, but I remember talking to you in the past, and I regretted immediately after the stream what I said to you then, because I wished that I would have discouraged you from doing that. And so perhaps all is well that ends well. Essence Wellbeing says, good morning from Australia. Your streams are so valued, but you should do what's right for your heart. Thank you for that. Nancy says, how can you motivate yourself to exercise more when your mind doesn't want to? Just embrace my favorite words. All suffering leads to greatness. Arnav says, in India for around $10,000, you can survive more than 4 or 5 years. For a single human being, if you, let's say, live in ashram, you could even live for about $200 a month. That's definitely good information. I will consider that. In the meantime, I do have this guy, and as far as I've researched on the internet, which may or may not be true, he's debatably legal or non-legal there, and I would not want anything to happen to my dog. I don't know what you think about that. That's crazy. See, this is do membership, because even with subscriber, people will subscribe just to make the same retarded fucking jokes as we've heard 1,000 fucking times, which I made up. I was the original portrayer of these jokes. Now I feel that I've been plagiarized. Excuse my language. But do you see what I'm saying? It's like as much as I'm not truly bothered, it's just there needs to be some type of way to stop these people from being here. They don't deserve to hear me talk. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Sam Hyde says, I can't seem to find a connection with God. I try, but it's hard for me to believe. But what is your method of finding that connection, Sam, is what I'm saying. Are you like trying to follow a Bible or something like that, or go to church? Because nobody finds it like that. Like literally nobody. You know what I'm saying? What people find there is a way to waste money on a scapegoat to make them feel better and think that they're not going to hell, which hell doesn't exist. Hell is right here. You're in hell. You're in heaven as well. It's whatever you want it to be, because you're going to reincarnate into this world over and over and over again until it turns into heaven or hell. You're going to reincarnate into the very world which you helped create. And you're going to continue reincarnating here until it ends. You know what I'm saying? And so you can't find God in a church or in a book. You have to have a direct, relationship with God. And you do that by purifying yourself, by living virtuously, and by chanting sacred sounds. Noi, rather than just deleting messages, do me a favor, just block them permanently from the stream. I don't know if that's what you've been doing, but just for clarity. Anyways. Arnav says, sir, you should create a group and we can meditate with only serious meditators with discipline. I think that's a good idea. I will work on something like that. That's a good idea. No, it's not. Sam says, I pray and talk to God, but I don't see myself becoming a better person. Maybe because I don't believe enough. Well, because it works in a different way. You know, praying is interesting. I always tell people to not even bother praying because every thought in your mind is a prayer. God is so infinite that it doesn't, I don't even like the word God, but what most people think of as God is, it's so infinite that it observes every single action, every thought, everything, every emotion that happens in every person on this entire planet simultaneously with basically with absolute ease. It's like nothing. It's like breathing to God to operate on that level. This entire planet to experience everything from the animals to the humans to everything conceivable. It's nothing to it, right? And so praying you're only praying to your ego. Your ego is the only thing that you can pray to. Every thought inside you is a prayer. So you have to do it the other way around. Rather than praying and talking to God and hoping that will make you a better person, you need to become a better person. Do you see what I'm saying? And then you get acknowledged. This is what I always say is it's like the devil and the angel on your shoulder, right? Except for God's got billions of angels and billions of devils on their shoulders. Each one of us is an angel or devil on God's shoulder, right? When the devil talks to you, what do you do if you want to be better? You ignore it, right? But when the angel talks to you, you try to, you listen, right? And this is what's going on with all of us on a massive scale that's beyond comprehension. So if you want God to acknowledge you, you have to have good thoughts and pure thoughts all the time. If you're having negative thoughts and you're being a negative person or negative actions, then you get ignored. And it's not because it's not because you're being punished. It's all out of love, right? Because letting you make your own mistakes is one of the ways that God loves you. You see what I'm saying? But if you stop believing and God doesn't try to hide from you anymore because there's no point in trying to hide from someone that actually knows. You are one and the same in some way once you know. You see what I'm saying? Arnav says, because me personally, your videos really helped. The Om meditation I did felt like vibration. Every day I take something from the video. That's beautiful. But there's already, that Om meditation was from Sadhguru. I just told you that what happened to me when I did it. Why do we need me as well? You already have Sadhguru. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm, it wasn't, I just pointed. I said, go look at this. You know what I'm saying? No, it says, there is no intermediary between us and the Creator. We are in direct contact with God. Exactly. Every thought in your mind, you can only talk to your own ego. You can't hide anything from God. You can't pick and choose and say, oh, my prayers right now, these are for God, but every other awful thing that I do all day, every other awful thing that I think is not a prayer. Those are all prayers. Every thought in your head is a prayer. You know what I'm saying? So when you think negative things, you are the negative voice in God's head, so to speak. This is why it takes purification, you know? David Rodriguez says, I agree with you, my friend. It was ultimately for the best, and I'm happiest and most successful than I've ever been in my life right now. I'm so happy to hear that, David. He says, since I am now in the Middle East, do you have any positive opinions you'd like to share with us regarding to Middle Eastern culture and Islamic faith? Yeah, I love it. Honestly, I don't know that much about the Islamic faith, but I interact with a lot of Muslims, and it's a lot of my favorite people to talk to, especially about spirituality. I find that they, they are devout, and I respect that. I do my same, apprehension with following any book or teaching of somebody who's no longer here to elaborate on that teaching applies, but I find that they do a better job than, for say, Christians of practicing their faith, and trying to, have a connection and a relationship with God, rather than just saying, oh, I'm forgiven because Jesus died for my sins, so I can do whatever I want. I'll just go confess my sins and it's okay, which I find to be the worst advice and the most demeaning thing spiritually that anyone could possibly think. Arno Penna says, what's your advice for someone who's in spiritual path but material path really hurts, like rent, food, and everything? People are sometimes scared of tomorrow, like basic things. Sometimes it's scary. I get it. I don't know, I'm from a different world, and I haven't had a lot of those problems. But I have found that, I spent for 2 years dragging myself. I gave up my job, which was a good job. I loved doing it. I gave up all my material possessions. I tried to, make something out of the spiritual knowledge when I have other very enjoyable ways to support myself. I tried to, challenge myself to see exactly how much I could live without, to see how deep I could go, and find my own limit, right? And what I personally found is that with faith, with knowing God, not believing God, that no matter how much I took away from myself, I only became lighter, and I only became happier. And that no matter how far that I dragged myself, how much I removed from myself, that I only gained spiritually, and so on and so forth. I only found more peace. And it's only when I come back and, I would say I've been at absolute peace for the last however long, especially when I wasn't streaming or anything. When I finally gave that up as well, found an even deeper level of peace. I even, I found love. I found so much things, right? And it was only from coming back on here and interacting with the internet and so on and so forth that I have been able to find any kind of negative emotions in myself or any kind of remnants of my ego. And this is the main reason why I'm saying I think I don't want to do this anymore. You see what I'm saying? Because I still don't even know who I am. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why I've been shown the things that I've been shown. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. And I don't actually think I can help or save anybody over the long term. I think that only suffering can help or save people. And is it truly virtuous for me to pursue something in the name of helping and awakening people when I know that my true belief is that suffering is the thing that's going to bring them the closest to that realization? Do I really want to be so sadistic as to create a situation where my life revolves around tormenting other people and destroying other people, so in the name of them attaining spiritual progress, when I have a completely more lucrative career path where I can make love and not have to do any of that and not really even interact with many people at all? I can just interact with one person who I feel very strongly about, and I can, be silent and meditating myself most of the time. I'm not trying to be selfish either, but again, like, if you took me as a spiritual teacher, like, I would just torment you. I would just destroy you, because that's the path that I see. That's how I did it for myself, was that I tormented myself and I destroyed myself. So I don't have anything else to offer anyone other than destruction. Do you know what I'm saying? Arnav says, I'm not saying don't work, but sometimes I think people are so material-minded they're willing to do anything to gain success, even if it hurts others. Yes, that is true. But what are the, but what if, like, what is success? We have to define success before we demonize the willingness to do anything for it, right? If people's version of success are little numbers on screens, and people are willing to do anything for that, then of course it's horrible, it's awful, it's slavery. But if success is spiritual immortality and release from fear and so on and so forth, then is it not worth doing anything, even if it hurts others, to bring people to that conclusion, right? So, but if the path to hell is paved in good intentions, right, then is there such thing as a good deed? If we're looking at it from a non-dual perspective of that there's no good and bad, but rather just contrast, that one creates the other, that good can only exist through bad or in contrast to bad, right, and vice versa, then is not the only righteous path to do nothing, to say nothing, to hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil, right? And he says, but emotions are first, not thoughts. Neither thoughts nor emotions are you. You see what I'm saying? These are all part of your spiritual machinery, which is your body. You see what I'm saying? Your thoughts are just your ego. Your true self operates on a much higher level than that. It doesn't require linear thought, but you know, your emotions are also just an emotional body. It's a compass. It's the way that the more advanced part of your mind speaks to you and tries to tell you things which can't be put into words. But it's also not you, it's just a compass. You see what I'm saying? Antonio Saudi says, the Middle East is not a product of purely Islamic culture. If you read the history of the Middle East in great depth, you realize it's a product of multiple civilizations. I get that. And it's, you're right. I misspoke. There is a lot to it. It's a diverse place, and we shouldn't try to merge it all into a singular religious belief as a culture, you know. But I would love to go there. I love the food. I love the people. I would love to see it. And I would the things that interest me the most are non-religious aspects, I would say. And that's true of everywhere in the world. I'm just not into religion that much. Arnav Pandavine says, when you meditate, has it ever happened that you forget your sense of time, like you opened your eyes and you forgot how many hours has passed? Yes, and that's the way it should be. This is honestly the state that you should try to achieve before doing anything else with meditation. Before you try to manipulate your energy or feel the currents in your body, you should learn to remain in total with absolute concentration in a state of no thought. You know, that is the where it all starts. Once you can enter that state where there is no sense of time, so on and so forth, then you can bring the mind back into, or the imagination back into it, but the imagination without the ego, you know what I'm saying? And you can kind of create, like, I call it like the Matrix training program, right? And I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think, like, you know, I think it's called Turiya or something like that. You know, but yeah, that's definitely the main goal. The first goal is to be able to meditate to the point that you can remain in meditation for however long you know. Opinion on DMT? I think that it's I don't really know. I've never done it. I've never done any form of it, but I do believe that the body produces it yourself on like a neuroscience level. If you want to take a really scientific approach to spirituality and spiritual experiences, I think that possibly the body is capable of producing it, but it produces a much, much larger dose than what a person can consume externally. And so it leads to a much greater effect. You know, and it doesn't require any kind of chemicals to pass it through the, you know, stomach acid and so on and so forth. And, you know, I tend to believe that, you know, there's different things work different ways. Sometimes, like, for example, coffee blocks your adenosine receptors, so your body creates more receptors. You know, then you become more sensitive to adenosine if you quit drinking caffeine or whatever, right? So possibly this is, in theory, how it could work with like shamans and things that are consuming it on a regular basis, that they make themselves very sensitive to DMT, and then perhaps eventually they can take away the external DMT and allow themselves to be more sensitive to it. But other stuff works other ways. Sometimes you desensitize yourself to something too. So it's really difficult to say. Arnav Pandavine says, any thoughts on Kundalini awakenings and how can anyone master it? I don't know how anyone can master it. It's definitely, I think, the fastest path to enlightenment is to um, do a Kundalini awakening for sure. But um, if you've ever been to certain spiritual locations, you've probably met people who have awoken their Kundalini without grounding, and it destroyed their mind. It's kind of like you have to be prepared for something like that. It's not the kind of thing that it's the kind of thing perhaps anyone can achieve the awakening, but not anyone can survive the awakening. Yeah, I mean, I think that like deep meditation is akin to being asleep and awake at the same time. So I think that, yeah, if you master that, you probably don't have to sleep that much. I mean, I don't think that I'm anywhere close to Sadhguru's level, so I don't really know that I can comment on that. But if I do believe in Sadhguru, I do believe that he's the real deal. And so, I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, I would refer you there rather than to anything I can share with my 2 years of experience. Anyways, you guys, I made it to the bottom of the chat. Feel free to send me some DMs on your thoughts and things. Yeah, we'll see where this goes from here. I got a new Twitter page in case I do move to Twitter. I'm going to try to build up this. This Twitter page a bit in case I do need to move, in case I do decide to do something on Spaces or whatever. But all in all, right now, I think we're nearing the end of this project. I think I did everything that I could do. I think that my biggest contribution that I was able to make to the spiritual world was to share my Kundalini awakening and the stages of it, and to be talking about it as it was happening. But I don't know that there's anything more that I have to bring into this space that's of any value. So, and I do think that I'm hurting my own process, because I do believe that there is another major step that I need to go through to find out more of the truth, which I feel there's something still missing. So, if that truth ever comes to me, I don't know what my conclusion will be, whether or not I will want to share it, or whether or not it's even worth sharing, because I think I've even overshared as it is, and I think that only a lucky few will ever, be able to use even what I've already put out there on the internet. But I can't put it back. So I think I'm just going to work on my own process and try to find whatever the next stage of enlightenment is on my own, because there's I feel that I already did my service by sharing my Kundalini awakening for 2 years as it was happening. But as Sadhguru says, Kundalini awakening can only bring you from Muladhara to I'm drawing a blank, but you can only go from the root to the third eye with that. But from here to here, there's no direct way. And I personally find silence, isolation, meditation to be the most potent things which I know of, and even though it does sound tempting and potentially beneficial for people to have a meditation group and so on and so forth on the internet, I think that me taking the time to turn on my phone and broadcast to the world and try to whatever when I am doing my practice is dirtying it in some way. It's a sacred thing. And so I think that I just have to turn inward. And yeah, this might be it, you guys. David Rodriguez says, with all that being said, is getting away from American society one of your motives for wanting to travel to India? Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of it's like I want to be around people that actually understand my lifestyle. I've been living fairly, I would say completely in the American sense. I've been living ascetically for about 2 years until recently. And I like the ascetic life. But what's my version of ascetic here is like, a real ascetic in India, for example, would think that I am massively overburdened with possessions and luxuries and things, and so I wanted to go be around people that understood this lifestyle, and I wanted to be in a place where I could live off of as little as possible, and it just seemed like the right place to do it, But for now, I have Sam, and the next part of my personal mission is to find a place to live that's as high of elevation as possible. Because as much as I, love yoga and all that, and that the Om yoga, something I found through Sadhguru was what awoken me and enlightened me. I found that, and even though, even upon remembering Shakti and, the changes that created inside myself, those changes are something I see reflected in the Daoist perspective. And so even though I didn't use the Daoist method to get here, what it gave me in retrospect, after learning more about the different perspectives on spirituality, is the Daoist perspective. And the things that I want to do, which I'm not going to talk about online, and my next stages are something that I need to go into the mountains for. And I think I'm going to pursue that. And you know, I am gonna, you know, probably start making content again on my other type of content, but in a completely different way, because I'm a completely different person with a completely different outlook, and I can't take back what I did before, and it's hard to put into words, but I just see myself being able to help the world and people more from that place, from the place that I came from the place that I actually do have mastery. Because let's face it, I don't know that much about yoga. I don't know that much about spirituality. I don't know that, you know what I'm saying? I've had some amazing experiences that which have allowed me to know God in a way that I haven't observed in many other people. I will say that. But the only thing that I can truly claim to be a master of is sex. And so much of the world revolves around sex. And so much of that is been sullied and dirtied and turned into something disgusting that I feel that it's my Dharma to try and purify some of the world's view on that, on sex, on the thing which I actually truly can say that I've mastered. Not to say that mastery ever ends, but you know, even through my celibacy and through my spiritual process and everything, I find that I myself have become 1,000 times better at sex, even by not having sex, by being celibate for a year, so on and so forth. So my intuition is pushing me in that direction rather than me trying to pretend I'm some saint or some yogi or something like that. I have to stay true to myself, and I can't teach people what I don't know, but I do know that. And that is something which cannot be put into words any more than the love of God. And so it's something which I can show instead of say. And I think that that's my path, and that's my calling, and that's the reason why I was awoken, because I didn't seek this out. It was given to me, and I have to assume that it was given to me for a reason. And that reason was not so that I could go and become just another internet guru trying to monetize something sacred, right? And if I am going to monetize something sacred, it's going to be the thing which I actually can claim mastery of. And I guess that's pretty much where I see myself going. Unless something changes, I'm going to spend a lot of time meditating between now and next Sunday. And I will plan on streaming next Sunday and following up with you guys. Unless you know what I come up with. But for the time being, this is where my head's at. And, I'm going to go find the tallest mountain that I can find where I can do that. And that's where I'm going. So, talk to you guys next Sunday. All right? Much love.